Hello and welcome to the morning edition live on NTN. We're bringing you updates coming out of the government of St. Lucia. My name is Jessie Leonce. Today is Thursday, the 24th of June, 2021. I mean, where is the week going? But I'm sure that you guys are enjoying nonetheless. Hope you're being productive all the while and adhering to the COVID-19 protocols. If you're just joining on air, online, good morning to you. For those of you residents right here in St. Lucia going about your day under the national COVID-19 protocols and as well as the state of emergency, good morning to you. We hope you're staying on the right side of the law. Also, for those of you who are in the diaspora, St. Lucians in the diaspora who are tuning in, good morning to you. We really do appreciate you tuning in to keep abreast as to what's happening in your island home. We do have developments in the National Health Insurance Initiative that is now underway. The project is underway coming out of the Ministry of Health and Wellness in collaboration with the Ministry of Economic Development and Ministry of Finance as well. So we do have that update for you coming out of Ministry of Health and share with you in just a moment. It's a report from Jacques Hinkson Compton. And also, we have a word from the Ministry of Health on vaccination hesitancy. It remains a concern for the government of St. Lucia. We have the Ministry of Health and Wellness receiving a donation of 100,000 face masks, as well as St. Lucia celebrating the value and virtue of the public service to the community. So stay tuned for these updates, these developments, including the latest figures for COVID-19 and some other bulletin information coming up directly after this break.
We can win this war. Get vaccinated. We're taking our life back. Get vaccinated. We know what to do. Get vaccinated. COVID-19 we won't lose to you. Oh no. Take 2 doses, take our life back. Time for a brand new day. Take 2 doses, take our life back. To live and work and play. Take 2 doses, take our life back. The health experts we trust. Take 2 doses, take our life back. Vaccinate for you, for yours, for us.
Let's take our life back with the safe and effective AstraZeneca COVID-19 vaccine. The mobile vaccination drive is coming to you. Visit the Ministry of Health and Wellness and Bureau of Health Education Facebook pages for more information. Let's take our life back. Vaccinate for you, for yours, for us.
Get vaccinated.
This message is brought to you by the Bureau of Health Education of the Ministry of Health and Wellness and this station.
Thank you so much for staying tuned. This is the morning update. If you're just joining, we're coming to you live from the Information Command Center, where we continue to keep watch over COVID-19 here in St. Lucia. We do have an important development coming from the Ministry of Health and Wellness in terms of the National Health Insurance, and we're going to start the morning off with that. The St. Lucian economy will see enormous economic benefits with the implementation of national health insurance, including a more equitable society. We now have a report from Jacques Hinkson Compton.
National Health Insurance, or NHI, is a system of health insurance that insures a national population against the costs of healthcare. According to Chief Economist of Research and Policy in the Department of Finance, Janai Leonce, St. Lucia sees relatively high out-of-pocket expenditures for healthcare.
Each dollar that you spend out of pocket, that is monies that could have been spent on other economic activity, education, and what have you. And healthcare and paying for your healthcare has the potential to bankrupt many persons to the extent that they are not covered or they don't have health insurance coverage.
Only 18% of persons of working age have health insurance. Reasons for this include policy designs and perceptions towards insurance. Further design of the upcoming NHI system hopes to implement an affordable essential benefits package.
One of the things the National Health Insurance Scheme is trying to do is to meet with the insurance providers and see to what extent we can design standardized products that can be at a price point that persons would be able to afford, but also designed in a way that it may change the attitude and the perception with respect to insurance a bit. And to the extent that you could do that, a lot of the debilitating costs that persons need to incur should a health event happen to them, that would be spared given the fact that they have health insurance coverage. And those monies can be spent on education, childcare, and a whole host of other areas.
Government also intends to undertake the costs of coverage for those unable to afford it. From the Ministry of Health and Wellness, I am Jacques Hinkson Compton reporting.
Thank you, Jacques, for that report over at the implementation unit for the NHI. We will be continuing watch over the NHI as well as other developments coming out of the Ministry of Health to enhance the health offering here on island. St. Lucia remains heavily armed in the fight against COVID-19, having recently bolstered its national vaccination campaign. While the Ministry of Health and Wellness has noted some progress in the uptake of the vaccine, the chairman of the command center and the government minister, the Minister for Tourism, Honorable Dominic Fede, is explaining that vaccination hesitancy does remain a concern for the government of St. Lucia. We get details in this report.
The Ministry of Health and Wellness continues a robust national vaccination campaign, encouraging members of the public to get vaccinated as St. Lucia strives to return to normalcy. Vaccination against the coronavirus, according to health officials, aids not only in fighting the virus but reducing the risk of developing the severe form of the illness, hospitalization, and even death. Minister for Tourism, Information and Broadcasting, Culture and Creative Industries, Honorable Dominic Fede, indicated that while significant progress is being made in obtaining herd immunity, vaccination hesitancy remains a concern.
The whole business of vaccine hesitancy remains a major concern for our government. And we are going to do anything possible to encourage St. Lucians to get vaccinated, because what we have seen in countries where people have vaccinated in large numbers, it has had a significant positive impact on the number of or the rate of hospitalization, the rate of deaths, and the rate of infection of COVID-19. And the science is showing that the vaccine has been a game changer, and it has been one of the greatest weapons that we can use to fight against COVID-19. And so what we have to do is really use our respective offices, and certainly I want to encourage you, the media, to use your platforms to encourage people to go get vaccinated and to really take the jab. It really is one of the biggest ways in which we can fight this and reclaim our lives and return to normalcy.
The minister, looking globally at vaccination efforts, noted that world leaders at the recently held G7 summit in the UK had expressed concern about the inequality taking place as it relates to access to vaccines. He went on to explain that there is a lot of concern surrounding the accessibility of vaccines by poorer countries and the slow pace at which citizens in developing and poorer countries are being vaccinated. Citing the pledge made by more developed countries to aid where possible, Honorable Fede asserted that the fight against COVID-19 is a global one.
There have been some pledges that they have made to help the developed world and the poorer countries to get up and step up the rate of vaccination, because the way that we can fight COVID is with a global approach. And so I welcome that. And what we really want to do is to make sure that when we continue to receive greater numbers of doses, that our people will be ready to take them. And what we have to do is use a multi-pronged approach to ensure that we encourage more people to go and take the jab. Obviously, the anti-vaxxers and their campaign really doesn't help the whole situation. So what we have to do is allow the science to inform what is happening. And we see what's happening in the United States. We see what's happening in the UK, two of the forerunners in vaccinations. And in both instances, those countries are seeing a significant decline in the rate of hospitalization, the rate of infection, and the rate of deaths have come down significantly. So really, everything there in the science suggests that we should go take the vaccine.
Members of the public are encouraged to get vaccinated to protect not only themselves, but their loved ones as well. From the Government Information Service, I am Janelle Norville.
Thank you, Janelle, for that report. We are due for a break. When we come back, Public Service Day is observed in St. Lucia. Stay with us.
What's in the food you're eating? Do you really even know? All the chemicals and hormones used to accelerate their growth all the artificial flavoring, sweeteners and colors too. We consume and we don't spare a thought for the damage that they'll do. No, think about the children. Think about the children. How will we save them? Chemicals and GMOs are not the solution. Use organic and join.
Excessive agrochemical use, additives and genetically modified foods are harmful to health and the environment. Join the good food revolution. Grow, buy and consume organic. A message from Rise St. Lucia and the Ministry of Sustainable Development with funding from the GEF Small Grants Program, UNDP.
The good food revolution.
Thank you so much for staying with us. This is the Morning Update live on NTN. Thank you for making us your wake-up station, your morning station. St. Lucia's Public Service joined the global community in celebrating the United Nations Public Service Day observance. The day, observed annually on the 23rd of June, is geared towards recognizing the value and virtue of public service to the community. This year's observance is being held under the local theme, The Work Landscape Post-Pandemic. Herma Demac tells us more.
Wednesday, 23rd June 2021 saw the annual observance of the United Nations Public Service Day. The observance is being held globally under the theme Innovating the Future Public Service, New Government Models for a New Era to Reach the SDGs. UN Public Service Day brings into focus the value of public service to the community and highlights the role it plays in the development of a nation. The work landscape post-pandemic is the local theme of this year's observance. Due to the COVID-19 pandemic, the program of activities to commemorate the occasion was significantly condensed to 3 main events. An ecumenical service was held Wednesday, June 23rd at the Minor Basilica of the Immaculate Conception. The service provided an opportunity for reflection on this year's theme. Prime Minister and Minister for Finance, Economic Growth, Job Creation, External Affairs and the Public Service, Honorable Alan Chasney, said the theme was carefully selected given the tremendous effort and sacrifice made by public servants towards the fight against COVID-19.
We must face the reality that the aftermath of the pandemic will require that we do things differently. Having observed your contribution and sacrifices over the last year, I have no doubt that you will take on this challenge. The work landscape, post-pandemic, will change the way we transact businesses. Since the pandemic, we've seen changes to the business model not only within government, but with businesses big and small. Due to the transformative developments that are taking place in the world today, and the accelerated adaptation and integration to the use of digital technology, St. Lucia has sped up the redesign of the way government services are delivered to our people.
The Prime Minister applauded the public servants for their continued dedication. He indicated post-pandemic, special focus will be given to the island's human resource.
We must be mindful of the health of staff, mental, physical, and emotional, as this would determine their coping abilities and therefore their ability to successfully contribute to the national development. We also must build and nurture trust. The level of trust built between employer and employee, supervisors and direct reports, and public servants and the citizens will be dependent on our ability to communicate honestly, fearlessly, and respectfully.
Father Albert Smith encouraged public servants to work together to build a more productive work environment.
There are people who do very well in the public service, but for a fact, all of us know it, and I know I'll get my licks for that, but that's okay. Many public servants do not do what they're supposed to do, and they get paid at the end of the month. That is robbery. That is robbing the economy of your country. It's a fact. Just as you have rights, all of you have a responsibility to give a fair day's work for a fair day's pay.
A Departmental Staff Appreciation and Recognition Day will be observed during the course of Public Service Week. The observance will conclude with a panel discussion slated for Friday, June 25th at the studios of the GIS. From the Government Information Service, I'm Humadi Mark reporting.
Thank you, Huma, for that report. A happy Public Service Day to all the public servants out there working hard to ensure that the government of St. Lucia chugs on efficiently. Time now for the update from the Department of Health and Wellness on the latest COVID-19 figures. St. Lucia is recording 11 new cases of COVID-19. So Wednesday, that was yesterday, June 23rd, the ministry received confirmation of these new cases, from a batch of 206 samples that were taken between the 18th to the 22nd of this month. The samples were processed on Tuesday of this week. These newly diagnosed individuals, they were all seen at the various respiratory clinics. Nothing out of the ordinary, and since they have been confirmed, these specific individuals have been confirmed infected with COVID-19, they have been arrangements is being made for them to be placed into isolation. Contact tracing for these newly diagnosed individuals is also now underway. The Ministry of Health and Wellness also received news of the recovery of 9 individuals from the respiratory hospital, bringing the total number of active cases in country to 65. All of the active cases, we hear from the Ministry of Health, they are doing well, and none of them are requiring treatment in the intensive care unit. The new positives bring the total number of cases that have been diagnosed since March of last year to 5,238. The National Epidemiology Department in the Ministry of Health and Wellness is currently undertaking a thorough review of the database of COVID-19 deaths here in St. Lucia. It is expected that this process will be completed by Friday of this week, that is tomorrow, and the Chief Medical Officer will issue a press statement specific to those findings on that day. You would recall just yesterday we got the update from the Ministry of Health and Wellness that based on a review that was conducted of the deaths in the last few months, there were some new cases, some individuals who succumbed who've been associated with COVID-19, and they've been added to the list of COVID-19 related deaths. As of yesterday, that is as of the 21st, that's earlier this week, a total of 30,270 individuals received their first dose of the Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine, and 21,293 received their second dose. And the vaccination drive, we want to remind you, is catering to individuals who are 18 years and older, as well as individuals who are due for their second dose of the vaccine. The ministry is encouraging everyone, as many persons, to get vaccinated as soon as possible, for themselves, the family, the wider society, so that we can come back to some sense of normalcy eventually. And I know the Prime Minister, the government of St. Lucia, they've put October as the target for herd immunity. And we are slowly reopening our society. Subsectors within tourism, our lifeblood, is reopening. Between this month, next month, we should be seeing the resumption of cruise tourism as well as other subsectors. The ministry is reminding the public that we are still very much susceptible to COVID-19. Although we've made great stride with our vaccination campaign, there is concern that there may be some hesitancy by certain sections of the public, but strides nonetheless. But despite that, the hope is that we can continue adhering to the COVID-19 protocols, the basic infection prevention measures, continue to adhere to everything, and most importantly, I think the curfew. We hope persons are not giving police, law enforcement a hard time after 9 p.m. at night. Please adhere to the protocols. Please stay on the right side of the law. We continue with our updates this morning. The Ministry of Health and Wellness, it's very health and wellness laden this morning. The Ministry of Health and Wellness and several other government agencies have benefited from the arrival of 100,000 face masks. And at the start of the COVID-19 response, you would recall that we had both the agencies abroad, private sector here in St. Lucia, delivering and donating to PPEs, that's personal protective equipment, toward the effort, and that has kind of waned in the last few months or so. But nonetheless, we're seeing donations happening, and in this latest instance, we're seeing 100,000 face masks being donated. We now take a look at this report from the Ministry of Health.
The donation of 100,000 face masks was made by local company Triple L Limited. Chief Executive Officer of Triple L, Collins Lynch, related the strategy employed in obtaining such a large volume of the protective gear.
It took us a little while because of the demands in the world for masks. Every time we only could have ordered 10,000 at a time. And it takes us a little longer than we anticipated because we looked at doing this thing from early April. But because of how we were getting the masks, we had to order 10,000, let it stay in Miami for a little while, then reorder because they made it abundantly clear they're not selling more than 10,000 at any given one time to a company. So we did it over time. Then West Indies Shipping collected all the packages and then brought it here. We cleared it.
Lynch also expressed his gratitude to the Ministry of Health and Wellness for providing a waiver on customs duties for the masks and to West Indies Shipping for providing a discounted rate for transporting them. Permanent Secretary Benson Emil explained why this donation was such a timely one.
We're required not just to service our medical facilities, but to service essential health institutions like the police, other ministries and agencies of government with the essential protective equipment in our response to COVID. So your contribution will come, a very long way in that response. It would assist us, tremendously in keeping our people protected, as they look to render service, to the general public.
In addition to the 100,000 masks provided to the Ministry of Health, Triple L will also make donations to schools in Dennery and the Mabuya Valley, as well as the fire and police stations in those communities. From the Ministry of Health and Wellness, I'm Jacques Hinkson-Compton reporting.
And now we take a quick break. Thanks, Jacques, for that report. Stay with us.
Sons and all the daughters, the island of St. Lucia, the place that full of culture, beautiful people, good character, big mountains, good for adventure, driving volcano, you feel you can enter, natural resources, place to remember, right banana, cause of a jelly water, no way in this world that I go, nobody can tell me what I know, could I England, Grenada, Tokyo, no place like Lucia, no, St. Lucia, my little Chacalisco, number one on the list now, even when your own people, them hit you, and I will never forsake you, sons and all the daughters, the island of St. Lucia, the place that full of culture.
Thank you so much for staying tuned. This is the morning update. We're now down to our final segment. Before we leave for the morning, we just want to remind you to continue supporting youth in your community because they are doing things big and small, but not forsaking and not neglecting the small beginnings. They work up to very huge success. We want you to continue to look after the young persons, look at what they're doing, encourage them, support them by giving them business. And just to highlight one of the groups that are doing quite a bit in terms of highlighting youth in their community, the Roseau Valley Youth. There's a Roseau Valley Youth Group and a youth worker in the person of Cesaria Hutchinson Parsad, working very hard to put the spotlight on the young people in that community. We know many communities are being labeled, I should say, for high crime areas and so on, and not necessarily the best of labels being placed on them. But we cannot forget and we cannot discount the work that many of the youth in these communities are doing, their own ambitions, their intellect, their industry. And we had Mrs. Cesaria Hutchinson Parsard coming into the program, sitting on the program a couple weeks ago, speaking to us about what she had done in terms of starting up a Facebook group to really give exposure to these hardworking young people. I just want to go to a clip from her talking about what inspired her to create this platform, because since they created the Roseau Valley Youth Facebook page, they have gotten a lot of traction, a lot of support at the national level. So take a look at what inspired her to do it.
Normally, every year for the month of April, because it's Youth Month, we highlight young persons in the community. And I realized that Roseau Valley don't get much features from young persons being featured. You'd hear more of what you would hear happening in the Roseau Valley would be crime and whatnot. So I said, you know what, let me show that this area has more than what people are hearing about.
On the news.
You know, on the news. Let me show them that we have talent and we have very creative and intelligent young persons there who need to be out there, who need to be portrayed, you know. So I went on and I started by using those who have been volunteering for a while now, those who just started and those who've been there for a while, couple years in there. And then I said, let me go a little further. Let me do the entrepreneurs, you know. And I contacted a few persons and I said, would you like to be featured? Because I know that you do this. And they said, yeah, no problem. And some others actually contacted the page wanting to be featured. Nice. And I told them to send me the information, which they did. And then I went ahead, I did some editing and I post.
It's selling itself now.
Oh, yes, it is. It just took off.
Now, one of the Roseau Valley youth attracting the most clicks and comments and raving reviews has been Jeffrey Amab, and he goes by Stuckley. He is a ceramic artist. He does really good work. I encourage you to go onto the Roseau Valley Facebook page so you can see some of his work. And of course, he crafts beauteous works of art using tiles. Amab says he is encouraged by the positive feedback, and he's also been engaged so far for business as a result of this platform.
I do arts and crafts, that's me, you know. I do a little work like brickwork sometimes, you know, but my work is art and craft. Okay. So I post a few photos of my work I did on Facebook, which it attracted her, you know. So she told me send my information and my stuff, like she said earlier. So I send it in and, you know, she put it out there. So I started getting comments, you know, some shares and likes and stuff, yeah. Well, it made me feel great, you know. People could see my work, could see what I could actually do, instead of thinking about the negative vibe about, you know, she said about the area. People think like, you know, we're doing bad stuff and stuff, you know. So I just like it that people could see my work, you know. And actually not many youths like could do the work I do in St. Lucia, you know. Yeah, I could say I'm the only one who could do that work.
Now, we have the youth worker, Mrs. Hutchinson Parsad, encouraging St. Lucians, both at home and abroad, to support the page and the industry of the featured youth.
I can easily be contacted. You know, they have those who don't have my number, I can be contacted at 713-6424. 713-6424. Or 717-2126. Okay, nice. Those are my numbers. So they need anything or they want to be featured on the page, they can contact me from my personal number or my work number, or they could just message the page directly.
That was Mrs. Hutchinson Parsad, youth worker from the Ministry of Youth Development and Sports for the community of the Roseau Valley. And with that, we come to the end of our morning update live on NTN. I just want to leave you with our lead stories. We have the St. Lucia economy seeing enormous economic benefits with the implementation of national health insurance, including a more equitable society. Also, vaccination hesitancy remains a concern for the government of St. Lucia. Government entities benefit from a donation of 100,000 face masks, and St. Lucia celebrates the value and virtue of the public service to the community with the observance of Public Service Day observed around the world. I'd like to thank you so much for watching. My name is Jessie Leon, signing off for now. Do enjoy the rest of your day. Continue adhering to the protocols and continue watching NTN, because we're bringing the latest developments from the government of St. Lucia round the clock. Cheers.